a roundtable with Clark Aldrich, Richard Matovu, and Frank Bergdoll on the threats and opportunities for learning specialists in the age of AI. Oof, a very hot topic, as we know, always gets a lot of attention. So our three education gurus will explore the disruptive role of AI in reshaping instructional design, transforming learner engagement, and challenging traditional teaching methodologies. Does AI bring more threats or exciting opportunities to educational specialists with these changes? So what's that they'll try to determine? Yeah. So they'll also discuss how to use AI to improve learning outcomes while addressing various ethical and professional challenges. Clark, Richard, Frank, welcome back. I'm glad to see you again.
Thank you.
Hello. Yes, good to have you. So before we begin the actual discussion, I have some very exciting questions prepared for you in order to collect of some sort of room temperature and to check the pulse in the room to see how you're reacting towards this or that situations related to AI. So now I would need you to think of the Roman Empire, whether you want it or not, and to try to recall how the emperors were deciding the fate of the gladiators. So they were showing this or they were showing this, right? So they needed to show this if they wanted the gladiator to survive, or this way if they didn't want to survive. So these are the symbols that we're going to be using. I'm going to ask you a question and you're going to show me this for yes and this for no, okay? So that we just have a visual picture. All right, so let's get started. Exactly. That's right, Frank. That's a great attitude. Yeah. Clark, you have a question.
I'm putting my thumb in the neutral position, waiting, Chris, for your
waiting. Okay,
your first
great,
question.
Great, sounds great. So we have a proper, proper language developing here. Great. Okay, so let me ask you the questions, and my expectation would be that you answer very quickly and honestly, of course, without any extra doubts and extra thoughts, because the questions are kind of provocative. So the first one as we goes. Have you ever worried that AI might take over your job?
To anyone or?
All of you.
Hope, okay. Not worry. Hope it takes over my job.
Yeah, okay. 2 for yes, 1 for no. Okay. Have you ever used AI to generate content without verifying its accuracy? Yes, 3 for yes. Thank you for being so honest. Oh, guilty as such. Have you ever had a student trying to convince you that their AI-generated essay or work was just a new form of creativity or totally their own? Yeah, Clark is neutral again, I guess because you don't work with students, or?
That's correct.
Yeah, that's the case. 1 for yes, 1 for no, 1's abstaining. Okay, I welcome our participants to also share their answers, because this is so exciting to see what's your experience, right? So the one with last question. Have you ever believed that AI should never have been created in the first place? Okay, here we have some unanimous answer, all for no. Okay, good to see that. And final question here in this Roman Empire category. Have you ever found yourself wishing for an AI that could just handle all the paperwork while you enjoy a little nice lunch break? Okay, Richard, this is no. Okay. All right, so we've got 2 yes and 1 no. All right, Richard doesn't really want to enjoy an extra time for lunch.
Maybe I don't know the type of role. It's funny, but I would think it may just randomly do stuff. The other things I would like to do for me, my weekend,
okay.
Rather taking the work home, it will do that bit. But at work, it can do that. But weekend, I wish please mark the work for me.
Okay, I see. Okay, thank you. All right. Now, I would like to proceed after this little warm-up to proceed to the main discussion, and I will be addressing, for some question, all of you, for some questions, just some of you, because we're limited for time. So please don't hesitate to raise your hand if you really want to introduce a comment at some point. That's totally fine. But I'd like to start with addressing all of you with the probably most important question that we have for this roundtable is about threats and opportunities and challenges that you see for educators and learners in an AI-driven world. So I'd like you to think of one emerging opportunity and one emerging challenge that you see as the most important for educators and learners in AI-driven world based on your observation? Could you name one challenge and one opportunity that you think are the most important ones at the moment? So maybe, Frank, we can start with you, if that's okay?
Sure. Yeah, sure. So I guess I'll start with the challenge. The challenge that I can see is that AI may eliminate the need for some of the foundational work that students sometimes have to do. So the idea is that when I view AI, I view search as being retrieval, I view artificial intelligence as being synthesis, and I view humanity as being application. And so if we look at the challenge, we may move away from the ability to people to have the foundations. But then that opportunity is that we free people from the foundational work so that they can go to that application and higher levels of cognition and application. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that does. That does. Well, at least it does for me. And the participants will make a comment if it doesn't. So, Clark, will we move to you then? Would you agree with Frank, or you have something else on your mind?
Yes, I mean, so AI really destroys the current model of education, mostly the output of education. And by the way, the output of validating something. So we can no longer say, do you know something, if you can turn in a term paper or a paper that has this information that, we've gotten rid of that. So I think Google should have killed education. Google should have absolutely devastated education. It only did a little bit. And I think AI is sort of coming along to finish the job. I think one of the challenges in the corporate world is it'll be very easy for people to produce really, really bad content very quickly, sort of the PowerPoint problem. PowerPoint came along and now anyone could create a 2-hour presentation in 7 minutes and have time left over. So I think AI is going to do the same thing and make it incredibly easy to create really bad content. I think the real advantage of AI, the incredible opportunity, is that individuals can create their own art, can create much more their own video, thanks to Richard's presentation. Individuals can create a lot more content by themselves and therefore be able to control everything about it faster, cheaper, and whatever. So the scary part is lots of bad content. The opportunity is a few people can create really great content now.
That's right, Clark. And I was wondering, when you started your answer, you said, well, there is a disruption, there is a sort of a destruction happening. But considering your previous speech and the fact that you believe that current education is broken in itself, I think it must be something that you kind of appreciate, don't you?
It's great. I think it's the need is there to change education model fundamentally, and AI is gonna push the old one over the cliff anyway.
Yeah. Okay, so then we can say it wasn't us, it was just the AI. All right. Right. Thank you very much. Richard, how about you? What do you see as the biggest challenge and one biggest opportunity at the moment?
I think I'll accept what those presenters have just mentioned. I think from my side, especially working in a university environment with students, and also being one of the very, very high fan of AI, I think it's going to be something that has come to help the learners become better. Two things. For example, academic writing, academic literacy is really something academicians take for granted. Seeing how many students fail essays because they don't know how to write an essay, they don't know how to do references, but the lecturer assumed they can. But seeing how this ChatGPT, you can use it to help you explain how that work you've just written, give it a critical, and then show you the different ways you could change the grammar, and then show you the different articles there. That is impossible to assign to the academic support team who would really help. So I think it's helping the students to become better at what they do. But the challenge is this: the educators and the students to know that this technology is here to help you, not to replace or not for cheating. Like when Google was there, we used to tell students, do not copy and paste. I want you to change it in your own words. And lovely, even the young ones, they changed this. Oh, sorry, is it okay for me to put this? No, I want you to change it in your own words. So this technology is not there for cheating. Ask it, I need you to find me these articles, and I need to give me the reference, and I will read them. But if it gives you content and you don't really just look at it, I think it's no good. So the challenge, how are we going to get our students to appreciate it here for cheating? How are we going to make our lecturers the place? You need to change the way you assess. Don't just give that essay because they're just going to copy and paste. So I think that is the challenge. And at the moment, there is no answer at the moment, but students are using it.
Right, Richard, thank you. That was a valuable academic perspective, I believe. Thank you very much. And I welcome every of the participants who are now attending this session to please also leave their comments, maybe some provocative disagreements in the chat so that we could also put that on board and continue the discussion. All right, thank you. I think we're good with this list of 3 challenges and 3 huge opportunities that we're facing. But let's move on to the other question then. We've been speaking about both educators and learners. And how about educators? We probably can focus on them right now. So my next question would be, how should teacher training programs evolve to prepare today's and future tomorrow's educators for an AI integrated classroom? Because I'm sure there is a lot of debate happening around the teachers not being well prepared for the AI challenges and opportunities, while students may be already better equipped for that, for age difference or for some other reasons. So the question is, what kind of new skills will soon become essential, and how can we prepare teachers to better to feel more at ease and to feel that they are empowered by the AI rather than disrupted by the AI, right? Do you want to start, Clark?
The very notion of curriculum needs to be changed, and we need to shift from this notion of, again, we're going to present a lot of content and have people write papers on it, and the WELT, the workbooks, essays, lectures, and tests model that I think we've been going up for the last 30, 40, 50 years. I think we have to retire. I think increasingly teachers are going to need to put learners in situations that mirror sort of the real world. And by mirror the real world, I also mean cross-training for the real world. So let's put them in a situation that mirrors some aspect of the military, or mirrors some aspect of a corporation, or mirrors some aspect of a nonprofit, or mirrors some aspect of a think tank or a publisher or whatever. Put people in situations that require the use of work. And then when they're using AI, hey, voila, they're learning. That's how they need to do it, because that's how they're going to do it in the real world. To the degree AI can't be used in various things like the military or publishing or something, then that becomes a condition of the project. And so by putting learners in projects mirroring the real world, it's almost skeuomorphic instructional design, then I think the problem goes away, because now we're just preparing them through cross-training, not through any individual track, how to deal with the world where AI is a huge part of it.
Right. Is that fair to guess that next time I'm asking you a question, Clark, you're going to start with insert some word is broken, like education is broken, curriculum is broken. I'm sorry, I'm teasing you. No, I appreciate your answer. And
probably going to be yes, but
Yeah, right. And I can see a lot of agreement with what you've just shared in the chat among the participants. So thank you very much for that support, especially considering that Richard was talking a lot about the academic background. Would you mind continuing on that topic, Richard?
Yeah, because I think, good points have been mentioned there. But what I now am thinking as coming from almost from the A part up to the almost where I am, I was trained in a PGC, that's a teacher training. So I can see the things that I didn't get trained when I was in a teaching scenario. So I think at the moment, any teacher training provider should give either themselves, I think, about a unit or maybe a model or anything to do with teaching these new teachers how technology is working at the moment. Because they are going to be shocked to create an assignment that students can just do like that. You don't blame them because they don't know. So every new teacher now should really be given an opportunity to learn how this technology works. I use these tools a lot, but believe me or not, I have also my colleague. We've learned a lot from what we do. And we normally advise these lecturers, please don't do that assignment. And how do we know that? Because we've been in that position. So our lecturers, our teachers have to be trained how this technology works and think differently how to assess these students. And maybe like Clark has mentioned, we may also see how these industries work, like computing. Students create a program. I mean, they're given a program and they can literally get a code in just a second. But actually, maybe when we call them to explain how this code works, actually, I can be assessing the understanding how this code works. We've got these narrated assessments now we are doing a lot in our university. You need to explain this concept, and actually students are recorded explaining because they have to talk what they are presenting. That is bridging the gap of somebody who really had to copy an essay. So I think teaching the new teachers how technology is working, I think has to be put in place.
Good question is how can we catch up with the technology developing faster than we're developing the teacher training programs, right? That is also one of the challenges. Right. Thank you, Richard. Frank, we are actually quite good in terms of timing, so maybe we'll have enough time for everyone to have an input here. So would you like to jump in as well?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So I think the key for any new teacher, or even old teachers with the new technology, is get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So to actually look at the tool as being something that exists, something that the students are going to gravitate towards, and then use it in a way where you can lose control. Stop micromanaging your classroom. Allow the 24, the 48, the however many students you have, allow those minds to fully participate in their own learning process and use AI as a tool to allow them to explore it. And then you just act as a guide, and you're just somebody who walked the journey 2 steps ahead of them. And the idea behind it is that AI is a fantastic tool for offloading the mundane so that you can focus on the valuable aspects of education, the valuable aspects of teaching, which is to allow people to discover knowledge for themselves. And if they use a tool, Google, AI, whatever the tool may be, that tool is allowing them to self-actualize towards being able to do things. I think as Clark mentioned, being able to enter into an environment, a nonprofit or a business or a corporate or whatever, and be effective in that environment, AI is going to be there, right? And it's important. I think it's very important for us to embrace it and just almost have to let go of the control aspects of a classroom and allow it to be more free-forming and more exploratory.
Right. Frank, thank you very much for that. And I would like to, again, say how much of a support you're getting from the audience. And if you don't mind, I would use a chance to read out loud some of the comments that the participants have made, and maybe you would like to react to some of them. If you do, you can also just give me a signal. So there was a point, AI isn't going away. We need to learn how to exploit what it has to offer to aid learning, not just run scared because of the problems it creates for the current way we teach or train. And then it's very important that educators, no matter what generation, keep pace with the latest developments, because students should definitely not outpace them. That's, to me, controversial point, but still interesting. Then there was a point of putting the value of humans first, and then train a tech-positive mindset and ask to write questions with correct prompts. This is what our audience is pointing out. Okay. Right. Richard, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, based on what you've just read from the audience, and also maybe Frank, and this is what I think really we should take it positively. We shouldn't really discourage the students, because what I've noticed when we used to say to students, don't use Google to copy. And then these students find these images and then look at the image and try to use it as an idea. So looking at a recent example I did, when you go big groups, the lecturers don't have time. I'm picking things that are really very tough, like critical analysis, they've got data. These students are failing because the person who taught them how to analyze this data didn't really give them the time. But I actually took a small exercise I did and I gave it to ChatGPT to really do analyze for me. Then I kept asking it questions. I did literally that showed me this experience. I wish they gave it to the other students I thought they failed. If these students were shown how they could use these tools to really analyze the data that has been collected in these masters and PhD, I think would get amazing reports. That shows me that we should just teach them to take this post. Don't just copy that data they've given. It's wrong. So this is really what I think. It is a positive tool, but we need to train our educators to really not take it like poison, but also tell our students this is not replacing your knowledge. It's your friend, your critical friend.
Your co-pilot.
We need to really kind of merge it rather than just taking it different directions.
Right. Thank you, Richard.
I can also make one more conclusion, which is the skill level of the students in AI will get bigger. The gap between the students and the teachers' knowledge of AI will get bigger every year for the next 2 decades. Yeah. The learners are going to have more time to screw around, to play. It's like programming. There's, the biggest joke was, professors teaching kids about programming. It's like, forget it. The kids were already, a decade ahead of them. So you have to develop a model of education that does not require the teachers to be 2 steps ahead of the learners, because they're not going to be, and everyone knows it. So increasingly, learners are going to have to be evaluating each other, and teachers as guides or coaches can sort of facilitate the process, but they're going to get further and further behind necessarily for the foreseeable future, and that has to be in the planning horizon.
Yeah. And I think I'll just jump in, I guess. I just saw a little green box go around me. So I think that a lot of times, when we're teaching, I'll maybe draw an analogy. A hammer is used to build a house, but a house becomes a home. So the idea is that if we teach hammer, we don't teach community. And if we teach build house, we don't teach community. So what we're able to do with AI is we're able to allow the students to almost teach themselves hammer and build, and now they can focus on what it means to actually participate in society and to actually use that knowledge to, again, for themselves to self-actualize, or for the societies and the communities that they belong to. So really what we're doing is we're leveraging a tool that is quite powerful, but it's not all-knowing. And it's not a replacement, it's an augmentation. And if we embrace the fact that AI can act as an augmentation, then that's going to free us to really think about what the purpose is of education. What is the purpose of training? And it's knowledge for purpose. AI is knowledge. The instructor, the individuals, the teacher, the trainer, the mentor, the guide is the purpose. And I think if we focus on that, I think that hopefully is the promise of education that we've wanted for many, many years. And AI can help unlock that and bring us a little bit closer to that wonderful day.
Right. Richard, I will get back to you in a moment. I just wanted to comment on what Frank has shared. To me, I'm not an expert in e-learning, and far not an expert in the AI, but what Richard has shared made me think of one point. For so many centuries, well, not many centuries since mass school was introduced, but let's say for so many generations since mass education was introduced, the teachers, the curricular creators were always saying that we don't really have much time for developing, socializing skills, citizenship skills, self-reflection skill, because we only have enough time to push the knowledge, the data, the information that is so basic and so necessary for the future development. So, well, considering this analogy with the hammer and the building, it looks like there's finally an opportunity to expedite the process a little bit, make it a little bit more facilitated, so that we have more time in the curricular to actually learn those social skills, citizenship skills, self-development skills, whatnot, all the things that are so necessary and are so much ignored in so many educational systems from all over the world. Right. And Richard, I would get back to you with your comment, but if you could make it quickly so that we can see to the next question.
Good. Just because of almost respond to what Frank said, that hammer analogy, I really like it, because it's like in England, it's really good at this. When you are driving, we get taught how to drive, but actually we get disciplined when you get now in London, there's 20 miles per hour. You've got this wonderful car can fly 1,000 miles, but you are disciplined to control it at that pace. I think that's the thing, that analogy. We have to embrace this car that we have, this technology, and make use of it. And actually, maybe also to show students how bad it could be. For example, when you've done, maybe I've given it an exercise and it has given me an answer, show how bad that answer is. Show it how there's no article like that in the world it has given you. Maybe that's an understanding that actually it doesn't give you every time good things.
Yeah, some sort of a sobering moment it comes, right? Yeah, thank you so much. But considering all that we've just said, I think it's only fair that we move on to some of the actionable items. And I'd like to jump to the next question and ask you all to input on the point what we can actually do to ensure that we overcome the resistance from educators in adopting the AI. So what common misconceptions about AI in education cause this resistance, and how in practice we can address this misconception? So maybe if you could give one practical tip of one practical advice, how you would recommend the heroes, the pioneers of organization to help the other educators around them to overcome this resistance, that would be great. Clark, do you want to start?
I'd like to go last if I could.
Yeah, sure. Richard?
Okay. Yeah, I'll start this quick because I do, funny enough, I'm trying to inspire lecturers. I think what I would do a session and show them what you can do. I'll use simple exercises. A good example I've recently done, I say, we do an exercise like this. I'll go do one. I've written a small article. And I'll take it to a lecturer to read it for me. They don't really have time because they have 30 students. I'll show them how ChatGPT can analyze my article and show me all the mistakes and show me all the different ways. I actually even learn, wow, I didn't even realize that word was there. I go back to modify. I would show them different ways it could be done. I show them different ways they could teach students with that same content they're trying to teach. I think it will start changing them because most of them don't have an idea what we are telling them. And I'll tell them to bring their real content. That's what I use. I think that's what I would do.
Real content. Okay, good tip here. Thanks. Frank, would you like to continue?
Sure. I think the biggest thing that I would maybe put here is AI is not there to replace you. AI is there to help you be you. You can be more you. You don't have to be the mechanical information giving instructor. You can now be the person you are, and you can be the mentor. And that's something that you spoke a little bit about in the last question. We have a formalized mechanical system to deliver information to people, deliver skills to people. But really, if you go a little further back than the traditional educational system of the 1800s, we have mentorship, we have apprenticeship, and AI can take away a lot of the mechanical work. I'm using the word mechanical a lot, but you get the idea. A lot of that sort of structured
Industrial.
Industrial, thank you. It can take away some of the industrial components, and it can add that humanity and the mentorship. So you can say, look, I mean, if you want to ask questions about, the structure of something, let's go to AI. And if you want to ask questions about the why, if you want to ask questions about the exciting aspects of purpose, then come to me. And together you can work in combination with AI and, very importantly, with your students as they explore AI, so that we can blend something together that hopefully breaks education. I'm going to pass it right over to Clark. That breaks education in a positive way, so we can rebuild it in a way that works for everyone.
Thanks. I do think the biggest misconception is that they can resist adopting it. I don't think that's an option. I think they do need to rethink their job, and they do need to be in front of the restructuring of education, because they can't. There's no option of resisting it. There's no option of saying, I want a world where AI doesn't exist, because it does. All the workplaces need AI or expect a fluency in AI coming into it. So it's the biggest misconception is believing that they can resist adopting it. And then on top of that, so because it represents this tectonic shift from learning to know to learning to do. How do the way you resist it, or the way that you adopt to it, I guess, is to change your model from, we're going to teach a bunch of facts, and we're going to teach the ability to organize facts. The ability to organize facts, which is most of what school is, has gone asymptotically closer to zero in terms of value in the outside world. There's no longer value in gathering facts and organizing facts, in citing facts. And especially because a lot of school stuff is already inaccurate, therefore, AI is inaccurate, but not necessarily more inaccurate than the average student. So the real shift is, how do we go from learning to know to learning to do? How do we start teaching skills rather than teaching facts? As we make that shift, then AI goes away as a problem and then simply becomes a pure enabler.
Great. Getting back to what Frank was mentioning about AI helping you become who you are, kind of like, making you shine your true colors. Yeah. Making it a little bit more simple for you to shine your true colors. And if you allow me, I would also like to share a few comments that our participants have mentioned in the chat box about their ideas on what can help educators stop resisting. So it is important for educators to realize that without adopting AI, their value may actually decrease. As learners perhaps feel, educators should be in line with the current trends. And this was a point from Adu Squash. Kairia, I'm sorry again for maybe mispronouncing the name here, but there is a beautiful advice here. I was once told, use AI as your brainstorming buddy. It really helped to change my perspective and use of it. Yeah. Right. So good points here. And why don't we then move to the other question? I can see we are slowly approaching some of the final questions here, probably the most interesting ones. The question will be as follows. With the rise of AI-generated content, what are the implications for academic integrity? Because we had a question here from one of the participants as well. AI may be an accumulation of knowledge. However, how much does it meet academic integrity standards, right? Exactly my point. How can educators ensure that students engage with high quality, credible sources? I think Richard has already started speaking about that. So why don't we continue here, Richard?
I think what's different, academic integrity is a really tough word. But because some students really don't realize they are going to be failed. And some lecturers are failing them, but they're actually doing it the wrong way. So I think somewhere the standards have to be thought out. What does academic integrity mean? What is involved? Because at the moment, when a student called Richard did really badly in the previous assignment, but this time they've managed to find out how technology works, how ChatGPT works. They really learned how to really write these critical reports properly. They've really gone back and written an essay. Then you are saying Richard is cheating because you are saying their report better. Not realizing he's actually learned how to write that, something you didn't teach them. So there, the standards are a bit different. Even maybe the software designers like Turnitin, those who are cheating, maybe their model is going to change. Are they reading how much words are similar? I don't know, but that standard is because some of the systems are being used, but they are using other models and students are failing. So the standard may really have to be rethought. But definitely academic integrity is a big thing. At the moment, there's no really straightforward answer, but I think it's going to be different software driven to help the staff, the teams to really see this, because it's one of the things you can't really be able to scan 400 students straight. Technology has to help you, but at the same time, the human thing has to come in and don't just judge by the number, 90%, without really sitting down and reading that report. But at the moment, some students are failing just because the lecturer has said that. That is really a current scenario that I can say. Academic integrity standards are a bit different.
Yeah, and to put that on top of it, what you were just saying, in different countries, academic integrity standards are also different, and sometimes dramatically different. You're very surprised if you're a part of the academic mobility program. You'll be see how students or even educators from different countries can't really understand what's being expected from them in a different country in terms of academic standards of integrity. Yeah, all right, thank you. Clark, would you have something to share here?
Well, first thought is it's the natural defense mechanism of education to hold new technology to a standard that's not met by the old technology. And so it's like, well, this technology might enable cheating, and this technology might enable lack of, it's like, it's already happening. So, it's a great defense mechanism. I appreciate it as a technique. It seldom held, we can always say, well, this doesn't, allow students to fully actualize themselves in a perfect way and become holistic. It's like, no, it doesn't work anyway. So I generally smell a rat here in the question, because academic integrity is, I don't think anyone pre-AI said this is a great model of academic integrity. Cheating happens all the time, for reasons, all the time. The other thing to note, again, is that AI content speaks with an accent. In fact, it's a very thick accent. And the more you spend time with AI, the more you sort of recognize the accent. It's almost like watching old movies with special effects. And it's like, I don't really think they were driving, I think that seemed like a blue screen behind them. So, I think the other thing, we can learn is those, and there's an old quote, forgeries in art never make it past a generation. The next generation sees the forgery as obviously a forgery. And so at the very least, too, there's a thick accent that AI produces, and most of us can look at content and very, very quickly see the AI's smudgy fingerprints in it. And and so I think, and even if you get away with it, this year, then probably 3 years from now, it's gonna fail the sniff test. So it's a poison fruit, so to speak, that organizations, I think, are going to realize that if they try to get away with it, it's not going to fool as many people as perhaps they'd hope.
I'm going to write down the phrase smudgy fingerprints. I'm going to start using that, because that's a very beautiful illustration to me. Great metaphor. Hammer we've had, smudgy fingerprints we've had. I'm looking forward to getting more from you. Okay, Frank, what do you have here?
Yeah, so, academic integrity is not something that's all of a sudden become an issue because AI appeared. Academic integrity has been around since academics. So I think that the trick here is not so much worrying about whether AI will enable academic integrity, but rather think about what it means to have integrity within academics. And for me, that's authentic assessment. So if you're going to create assessments that can be hacked by Google, by AI, by a search engine, or you could even go into the library, right? Could you imagine if somebody wrote down all the answers in this thing called a book? So, and it sounds crazy, but there was a time in academia, I mean, if you go into the history of it, where the idea of learning and having a book was considered dishonest. You have to memorize things. I mean, now I'm not that old, so I'm not going back to the days of the Greeks, but I'm simply saying that, academic integrity is not an issue with it when it comes to AI. Academic integrity is an issue globally, which I think is more based upon authentic assessment. And I think you can cheat on a test, but you can't cheat in life. So as educators, we need to, well, I guess you can cheat in life, but the idea is that, we shouldn't cheat in life. We shouldn't cheat on tests. So the only way to do things is to have authentic assessment, and AI does not change that picture.
No need to go back to the ancient Greeks. We've already had our ancient Romans in the start of this conversation. So yeah, but I couldn't agree more. And there is a sort of a referent question from Jamila in the chat. The question is, how can we be sure that our students still rely on their potentials and not on the AI? That's very much an echo to what Frank was just saying. All right. Why don't we move on to our last question that I have prepared? And if we, by any chance, have enough time for an additional question, that I would welcome our participants to leave in the comments another suggestion for a question that you would like to discuss with our esteemed guests today at our panel. So the question will be as follows. Do you think that over-reliance or overuse of AI can make learners intellectually lazy? Is there a way to tackle that issue? And do you even think that intellectual laziness is an issue in this new generation? So, Frank, do you feel like you want to start?
Sure. That's a harder question.
I know.
So the questions are progressively a little bit harder there. So yeah, the concept of being intellectually lazy is a definition of terms, right? So what does it mean to be intellectually lazy? I mean, we're now dealing not with AI. I think we're dealing with motivation here. So the idea of being intellectually alive or intellectually curious, or intellectually engaged is really not a technical issue. It's an issue of how do we as a society, and does a learner as an individual value the pursuit of knowledge? And if we can use technology as a way of eliminating barriers in that pursuit of knowledge, then that intellectual issue, the idea of being intellectually lazy goes away. And a perfect example of that is a myriad of examples around if a learner is motivated to do something they enjoy, they're never intellectually lazy. So, somebody who plays a video game and is able to complete the levels and is able to get through everything is not intellectually lazy. They're just intellectually focused on the video game. So it's not an issue of AI making a change to this. It's our issue of education making. Let's go back to the Roman Empire. So, if you look at something like the Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, it's about a 6-book set. It's massive reading. Not a lot of people can tackle that set of books. But if you change it up with technology and make a movie about the decline and fall of the Roman Empire, or if you make an interaction, of the decline and fall of the Roman Empire, now all of a sudden you've created excitement and you've created a desire to not be lazy about participating in that knowledge. And I think really, I think we kind of have to put AI to the side on this one, and we have to say, well, maybe we can't. Maybe we can take AI and we can say, how can I query AI and say, how can I make this subject more exciting for my students, and see what it has to say.
Yeah, interesting. I'm wondering if the AI would get the excitement in the same fashion as students would. But that's a great tip. Why don't we give it a try, right? Richard, what do you have to add here? Do you agree with Frank?
I think definitely everything he said. Definitely I agree with Frank. And especially from what he said before, authentic assessments. So I think 2 things, because you said how we can make the students to over rely on this, and in terms of being authentic, 2 things. If we did the correct assessments, the students are going to be better. Then also, if we taught students not to use AI in a wrong way, and show them that this AI is there to help you get better at what you do, to become authentic, then they are going to see it in a different way. A good example, if the students have been used to copying and pasting, they are going to become lazy at reading like Google was. But I'm giving a good example. In my old days in school, we used to ban YouTube in class, and students get detentions for it. But these amazing students, about 11, 12 years, they're really good at programming. They say, sir, I got a good video here showing me how to use Python. I said, no, you can't use YouTube. But when we relaxed and that student got a headphone, okay, Tom, I'll give you a headphone. They looked at the video tutorial. It showed them how to use that tag that even in a million years, I've never shown them. These students didn't bring amazing tools. They became better programmers. I showed them when you go permission to use YouTube, it's not about music and games. It's about learning. So when we show the students that AI is about helping you to become better, learning how to do critical analysis, learning how to use that tag, then you get better. Websites, people just copy a code and do a website like in a second. But if maybe we design assessments, actually this time, design plans way more than the actual finished website. Actually, the students will do more designing. By the time they do the code, they've actually become better creators. So I've changed the model. Rather than saying design a website where a person can get the code in just a second. So what Frank has said, authentic assessment, and I'm also teaching students not to over-rely on this in a negative way. I want you to use AI to become better.
Again, a better version of yourself,
yeah.
Right? Exactly. Okay, Richard, thank you very much. And Clark, do you have something to share on that?
First thought is there's a nightmare scenario possible where schools and academics try to create more and more clever assignments going down the same rat hole of analysis and saying to try to outsmart them in AI. So rather than write a paper on X, have AI write a paper on X and you critique AI's paper on X or something. And so it just becomes this nightmare echo scenario where you go deeper and deeper down this analysis rat hole, which I think would be a real tragedy. And so I think the opportunity is to rethink. Another simple observation, if I may, which is, you wouldn't have this question coming up in military or academic or corporate or government or nonprofit or whatever. All of these cultures would never ask this question: is this going to make employees lazy? They're going to say, we're going to shift. So, in generally speaking, AI represents an existential threat to schools, but a mild opportunity, maybe a little more than mild opportunity for organizations outside of schools. And so at the very least, we should look at those two levels and say they should be the same, that both schools and those organizations that use people should have the same fear, excitement about AI. And when they don't, when schools fear is here and sort of corporation sort of fear is here, again, that kind of discord is reason to think that we're maybe on the wrong track when it comes to one or the other in terms of getting this right.
Mm-hmm. Right. Thank you, Clark. I would like to say to all of our panelists that we have actually started with a smaller audience than we are here right now, which usually is quite the opposite, which means that the discussion is very lively and intriguing and attracts people's attention. But we do have to wrap up very soon. So I'll just leave one tiny little question for you to give me a quick answer. This is the question that I think is really brilliant to wrap up the conversation. I would love to know your favorite AI resource. This was the question posed by Kara. Or do you even have a favorite AI resource that you're using at your work? So I'm sure our participants can also share their opinions in the chat. So if you could quickly share yours, that would be great. Richard, which is yours?
Yeah, I've just done a resource that does the induction for our students in using our technologies in the university. I used to just give text and do, but I've managed to add voice. And I paid £100 for someone to record for me a voice. This time I'm paying it £20 to an application, which I now put in the words, and I'm actually using the same quality. And it has helped me for students who say they can't hear. And the students who come from other countries, I've changed it in another language. I had never thought I would do that.
Yeah. Just a quick comment for the participants. £20 is about 25 euros and about $30. So yeah, super. Good to hear that. Thank you. Clark, what do you have?
I'm so totally AI'd in terms of my work process, and using Richard's example, when I'm writing my new book right now, and I throw chapters into AI so they can read it to me, and so I can sit back and listen to my own words because I hate reading my own words, kind of thing. And so, Richard's example made me think about it. For short sims, I'm always using art. Art used to be the most time-consuming part of a short sim project, and now it's much less. From a design perspective, I use AI for brainstorming all the time. Give me 30 words that means blank, and then pick the one that I like or something or whatever. So it's so absolutely integrated into my workflow that I can't even think of one. All I can think of is I'll use an AI, for hours a day, just as part of my process now.
And those are all different tools, yeah.
All different tools, yeah. And even Bing. I mean, I've Microsoft thing is a really nice thing just to have on going all the time and just throwing things into it and seeing what it comes up with. I don't use it for finished prose at all, but I use it for constant brainstorming and ideas. For graphics, for art, I do use it for.
Yeah. Okay. I also can see that the participants have started sharing their favorite tools, which is very helpful. Again, peer-to-peer learning is something that I always appreciate in iSpring conferences. All right. Let's wrap it up with Frank and hear what their favorite resources are.
Yeah. So I guess I'm going to play devil's advocate. So there's tools and there's resources.
Yeah.
So when it comes to tools, that list is huge. So Perplexity for doing academic research, ChatGPT for doing just a whole bunch of general AI, things like Open or Copilot. There's tons and tons of tools. Resources, other people. So other people's prompts, other people's experiences with AI. There's a great book by Salman Khan, so Khan Academy. So he wrote a great book on AI and education, and he talks about doing things like using AI to practice Socratic questioning. He talks about using AI as a tutor. So that's the resource end of things. But tools is infinite. It seems to be growing every day. But in terms of resources, I'm gonna go old school. Other people and other people's ideas.
Okay, yeah, that's how you make yourself richer, through the other people's ideas. And that's exactly what we've been doing at this workshop, at this roundtable, enriching ourselves through your ideas. Thank you so much, Richard, Frank, Clark. This is my virtual round of applause to you. Let me see if I can find the right emojis. Yes, here I found them. Lots of rounds of applause, as you can see, tons of them. Thank you so very much. I hope you can stay with us further on for the rest of the sessions to also enjoy other speakers' presentations. And at this point of time, I'm saying thank you to you, and see you soon.
Thank you. Thank you, Clark.
Bye, everyone.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
Frank. Thank you.
Bye,
guys.
Thanks, Chris.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Take
Bye.
care.